What knowledge might save your life one day? Here's what Redditors have to say. If a rhino is running towards you, wait until the last second then sidestep out of the way. Rhinos cannot make sudden turns and will give you a couple seconds head start to run in the other direction. Repeat as necessary. If you ever use boiled linseed oil to treat wood, don't leave soaked rags lying in the trash. They oxidize and after a few hours can self-combust. The best way to deal with them is to lay them flat on the concrete or put them in a bucket of water. The heat will dissipate if you do this. Crumpling it up and doesn't allow the heat to dissipate and could make them combust. I only learned of this a few weeks ago. I consider myself very lucky because I use linseed oil often. It leaves a more natural wood grain color and it's my favorite treatment to use. If you feel chronically unwell all the time and you get told there is nothing wrong with you by your doctor, that you are suffering purely mental health problems or hypochondria, don't give up pushing for answers unless you know subconsciously this is the case. Hypochondria is not as common as some physicians seem to think, and even if the problem was pathological or psychosomatic in nature, it is still a problem that needs dealing with. People know their own bodies and know when something is wrong. There is a vast expanse of medical conditions that are possible and very difficult to diagnose. Doctors may only deal with some rare conditions once in a career or not at all, and won't automatically go there when considering your symptoms. I was told I was a hypochondriac for 10 years and everything was blamed on lifestyle and mental health. I went from the youngest international shipping director in my sector to practically bedbound and in terrible health and distress over 2 months at 21 and was told nothing was wrong for the next 10 years. Turned out I had a rare disease called Cushing's which was damaging my heart, atrophying my brain, causing central hormonal obesity, constant infections and damage to my bones, and destroying my quality of life. I had almost zero testosterone in my body and a dangerous amount of cortisol stress hormone. It was left to get worse for a decade. Before the self-righteous lecture comment, this is not an indictment of the medical profession. These things are difficult, and not all doctors are the same. They do a great job most of the time, but doctors are human like everyone else and this makes them fallible. But if I gave up and didn't keep pushing, I wouldn't be here today. EMT here. If you're ever choking on food in a public venue, do not go to the restroom to avoid causing a scene. Almost every death I've seen from people choking are found unconscious in a bathroom stall because they were too polite to seek help. I feel like if there's any situation in which it's okay to not be polite, it's when you're choking to death. I don't think people are necessarily thinking rationally when they are choking. For instance, if you see a video about signs of drowning, it's the opposite of what you'd think. Intuitively we'd think a person struggling to stay afloat would be splashing and screaming and making a big scene, but they actually are so focused on trying to keep their head above water that they're quiet and moving very little. Regarding running to the bathroom, this happened to a good friend of mine. He was on a long drive and eating alone at a small restaurant and started choking and instinctively made a beeline to the bathroom. Thankfully, to get to the bathroom you had to pass the entrance to the kitchen and the waiter was there and saw the alarm in his face. The waiter stopped him and asked him what was wrong and my friend was able to communicate that he was choking. The waiter did the Heimlich maneuver and dislodged the food from my friend's throat. But had the bathroom been somewhere else, or had the waiter been busy at another table, my friend would have been one of those dead people on the bathroom floor that Op referred to. If you're ever charged by a moose, get behind a tree. They have about a 10-inch blind spot and they'll lose you. Level 2. That's what ski patrol would always say when there were an increase in moose sightings on the mountain. They'd tell you to stay out of the trees when skiing, unless a moose is running at you. Then find trees, because unless you've got a steep hill, or are already up to speed, the moose is probably faster than you think. Never use bleach and ammonia-based cleaning products at the same time / in the same room. A combination of both their vapors creates chloramine vapor which can kill you if inhaled. Check your cleaning supplies to see what's in them, especially toilet and tile cleaners. This is also why you don't use bleach to clean up cat urine. If you've been buried alive in a standard coffin, stay calm. If you are alive, you haven't been buried that long. Also, the dirt above you hasn't set yet. Most coffins are not built to last once buried, and as a result have weak siding. So here is what you do. Pull your shirt over your head. You don't want to be swallowing dirt. Position yourself so you are as sideways in the coffin as possible with hands and feet pushing on the long sides. Push. You should be able to blow out one of the walls. Start crawling up. Do not panic. You may not find a grip immediately. Keep going until you make it out. Worst nightmare. Just reading that made me uncomfortable. And to find out which way is up, spit. Gravity still works and will pull it down. Also true if you're covered by snow in an avalanche. Edit. Apparently, as pointed out in the rest of this thread, while the laws of gravity will still be in effect and my comment is valid, being covered in an avalanche is bad because, unlike fresh dirt, it will settle like concrete, thus making a dig your way out scenario unlikely. Apparently your best bet is to wait until you're rescued. If you're planning on going downhill in a zone where an avalanche is likely, I watched a documentary where people have blow up neck things with GPS attached so rescuers can find you. I would recommend that, in which case, my comment may be helpful. 100% research and verify all of these tips. A lot of information can change over time. Or don't trust Reddit strangers. If the tide suddenly goes out unexpectedly, run like you stole it, for higher ground. I read about a 10-year-old English girl who had just learned this before going on vacation with her family to Thailand. Then the big tsunami that killed a few 100,000 came. She saw the water retreat and the other tourists walk out on the exposed seafloor. She freaked out and convinced everybody to run for higher ground. A lot of people were saved by a little girl who had paid attention in school. They later brought a lot of flowers to the teacher. Imagine how terrifying that must be, knowing that a huge unstoppable wave is traveling hundreds of kilometers per hour to your location. And most people don't listen to you, just thinking you're a stupid kid who doesn't know any better. Fortunately, they believed her. Or perhaps she convinced her parents, who convinced the rest. Most likely somebody else also knew when reminded. From what I remember about the story, she was casually telling her parents about how receding water can mean a tsunami is coming, and a Japanese man nearby overheard her, realized that the water has indeed receded to an alarming amount, and started freaking out, and they all told a lifeguard who immediately cleared the beach. If your car suddenly accelerates beyond control and the brakes are unresponsive, shift the car into neutral and slowly apply the brakes. This situation happened to a family in CA some years ago. They had no idea what to do and tragically lost their lives. Edit. Corrected stating that you should apply the emergency brake. Many have fairly pointed out that you should not apply the emergency brake as this will cause you to lock up. If you kill a bee, a bunch more will come to that specific area, so it is a good idea to leave from there. Beekeeper here. For honeybees, it's sting that attracts them. If you get stung, they release a pheromone that tells the other bees to sting the same place. Cover the spot with your hand or rub it with something that has a strong smell. Just not something that smells like banana. The chemical that makes the banana smell is the same as bees' alarm pheromone. If you smell bananas when you're working your bees, you've upset them. Is there anywhere where bananas and honeybees coexist? Do they attack banana trees? I have a banana tree / plant and have never seen bees near it. That just means the banana tree won. Firefighter training. If there is a fire, crawl out of the building. Do not stand up to run. 1 or 2 breaths of smoke are enough to do major damage and require hospitalization. If you get out at all, it may be warm where you are crawling, but standing up can cook your skin and your lungs. The smoke at eye level can be more than 600 deg.C, 1200 deg.F. If you can't see and don't know the room layout, crawl with your feet / legs in front of you, sliding on your ass. Do not crawl face first, or you may take a dive down a staircase in the confusion.